Thunder up. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
All right, welcome to Oklahoma City. How are you feeling this weekend?
I'm feeling great. Having a good time.
It's absolutely amazing to have you here. I mean, the energy here is so electric. Everybody's been really looking forward to this moment, as have I. Thank you so much for just being here and spending some time with us, answering our questions.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. How's your weekend been so far?
It's been great. Met a lot of great people, and the fans are always great to talk to and see, sign for, and have some laughs with. And it's the genuine people that come out who've, so many fans here in Oklahoma have seen such a various amounts of my work that I'm always surprised. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Someone came up to me, an older gentleman, and said, "Oh, I started watching you in Nash Bridges."
Wow.
And so it's lovely. It reminds me that I've done a lot of work and I've been around for a long time, and I'm really in gratitude and appreciate it.
No, definitely, and we're definitely grateful for you. You put out so much amazing work, and you put so much into your craft. I have some questions prepared for you, and then of course we'll open up to the audience. So I guess we can start right here. Across your career, you've stepped into some intensely layered roles, but before the lines are spoken and the scenes are blocked, there's a set, there's a crew, there's an energy. What kind of creative atmosphere do you look for or try to create when you walk onto the set? What tells you that this is a space where real artistry can happen?
Well, any space is a space where real artistry can happen. It's a matter of, do you relate to the space? And if you don't, then you have to find a way in. And so when I come from the theater, so the theater, it has a set and it has a certain feeling. Some theaters in America are ghosted, so there's other entities within them. Others have a very long history, over 100 years old for some of them. So you feel all that vibration. And as I always do it, I walk in and I spend time in the room. I just did 2 films in Atlanta, and I walked onto a set that was built on a soundstage. And the film is a film called By Any Means with Mark Wahlberg, based on a true story. It takes place in the 60s. So of course the room had a certain antique feeling to it. And I walked in and I stood there for a minute, and everyone said, "Come on in," and the director's over here, and they kept looking at me oddly while I'm standing there, breathing and looking at the room and feeling the room's energy, because then I have to put my persona into the room. So to answer your question, by the time I get to the set, I've already figured a lot of things out or had my own visual of what it may be like, what that room may have in it, where I might go saying certain lines. And so when I walk in the first time, having never seen it, I try to figure out if it matched what I saw. And then I put myself in that room physically in the moment to be able to use every element of that room to play into my performance. But that's because I'm a theater actor, and that's how I prepare. Because it's not only in preparation that I learn my lines, then I have to think about, I'll tell you a story. I live in Connecticut, I have 4 daughters, and they were very young at the time. And I had my office in the living room, in one corner of the living room. And I was sitting there, and I was playing a lawyer. So I would sit at my desk and talk and talk and talk, and my daughter came in, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm learning my lines." She said, "What are you playing?" She had to be 10 years old. And I said, "I'm playing a lawyer." She said, "Oh, okay, well, doesn't a lawyer like talk to the jury and talk to the judge and get..." I started laughing, and I said, "I'm not there yet, but I'll get there soon." So the next day, she comes in, and I'm standing up, and I'm putting the judge there, and the jury there, and the prosecutor there, and I'm talking to all the walls, and she comes in, she goes, "That's better, Papa."
It's so wonderful to see how kids just have this sense of play, and they can really just like let go. How much have your kids inspired your work? I mean, I know you just gave a small example now, but how much of your work really comes from the driving force of having to provide and not only be a good dad, but also just like set a positive example for them?
Well, I can only think of another story. When I first moved to Connecticut many years ago, I don't live there anymore, and since then I'm divorced, and I'm very close to my whole family, and I have 4 daughters, just to catch you up. When I moved there, I was doing a piece called Wonderland for Peter Berg. It was about a mental hospital, and my episode was never aired. But I had my first child, and I was playing a guy who had he had multiple personality disorder. He was kind of autistic on the spectrum, and and I've had to play 6 characters within this one piece. And my first daughter used to suck her fingers, her 2 middle fingers. And I was very inspired by that because I wondered how different is that than sucking your thumb? And most kids, or at least I sucked my thumb because it fits right into the roof of your mouth. But she sucked these 2 middle fingers. It's even hard for me to do. But I started to do it because I was messing around with her when she was young. And then I started to play this character. And I was figuring out all these different personalities, of which there were 6. And in the show, I sucked these 2 fingers in a corner because it was calming me as the character after a very traumatic moment. So my children, I think, inspire me a lot, but the world inspires me. As an actor, I'm an observer, right? I observe people, right? I love coming to Comic-Con because when you come to a Comic-Con, you meet people from all walks of life, all different ages, who are in wonder, enchantment, and joy. When do you get a chance to experience that on a daily basis? My reminder is, take this experience with you during the week so that you understand that it's wonderful to be unjaded as that of a child. It's wonderful to have an imagination. It's wonderful to have people recognize that imagination, and it's wonderful to be seen living in that space. Because we sometimes think that to grow up and be responsible and to show up is to always be a certain way. You can be silly, you can have fun, you can be inspired, right? That's really an important part of life that I remind myself as an adult when all the responsibilities of my life, start to choke me, that it really should be fun, right? That's the whole part of it that I think some of us, including myself, leave behind. And whenever I find myself leaving behind, I go back and recapture it. So my kids have really inspired me. In all of their great moments, and all of their traumatic moments, and all of their turmoil. I mean, I have 4 daughters. So there's a lot of responsibility to any child. But to 4 daughters, I mean, I feel like the females are really creative, and they're a little bit, not to discount male children or any male at all, but are a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to the way they communicate, their artistry. They're just a little bit further ahead because they're female. That's what they have. They have that kind of chemical creation within them. So because I have 4, I'm very inspired by all of that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all. Yeah. There's a controlled intensity to your work, the sense that every moment is intentional. I was curious to know, where does that discipline come from?
I believe it comes from the theater. It comes from, because in the theater, I'm on stage for 2 hours and you can't stop. There's no cutting of the camera and starting again. If you're either, as one director said to me, Anna Shapiro, who I really love, from Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago, you're either on the train or off the train. So you know when you have the audience in the palm of your hand and when you don't. And you have to be aware of that. Our awareness as human beings has diminished, not increased. It's diminished because we have cell phones and we allow the phone to be aware. We allow the phone to be aware for us, as opposed to being aware of energy, right? So we are 90% water, 80 to 90, 70 to 90 for men, 90 to 100 for women, and we're electrical beings, which means we feel things. And so to understand that is to understand and take our own temperature as to where we are in the current of things, right? We're current. And you feel that current. And you can feel it if you stay quiet for a minute. You feel what's in between the words. So my intensity of my characters comes from me acknowledging that current. And also, I went to military school. I had one of those strict upbringings in many ways. And I feel like what I have to do in a room full of chaos is to control the chaos. And I can't control the room. I can't control anyone but myself. I can only control or take responsibility for my own attitude, but I do that. And in doing so, in film, it's about bringing the camera to me, bringing all of your attention, which will eventually be on the other end of the screen, to me, which means I have to be still, thinking something, active in my thinking, active in my heart, but still, in many moments, for your attention to stay with me going, what is he doing? What might he be thinking? What's going on, especially with some of the intense characters that I play.
Yeah, and just to mirror what you just said about us being so device-driven, especially nowadays in society. One of the things that I'm always constantly doing with my son is telling him, because he's always like, "What am I going to do now? What game am I going to watch now? What show am I going to watch now?" I'm like, "Papi, just sit with your thoughts. It's healthy. Just sit with your thoughts. You'll just be just fine." And you are a master of the pause, the glance, the breath between lines. I was curious, how do you approach silence as a performance tool, and what lives in those quiet moments between dialogue?
What lives in those quiet moments is spirit, my spirit, or the character's spirit. I try to allow myself as an actor what I am, and what I call myself as a channel. I'm a channel for the writer's words, and I am trusted to bring those words to life verbally, but acting is not just with words. It's also a physical experience. And so what I do is allow that to live. And it lives within that pause, within that space. It is not an easy place to trust. But when you trust it, you leave room for mindfulness that is your higher self. Because I hear voices. Okay, you could say I'm schizophrenic, I'm crazy, all those things. My kids already do. But my girls tell me, "Papa, you are extra." Yeah, I know, I got a lot of extra stuff going on, but there's the mind and the voice inside. When you meet someone, you look at them, certain determinations come up in your brain, right? From what they're wearing to what they say. And you take that in, but how often do you honor what that says or discount it? For me, it's a constant effort not to judge anyone, at all. And so you take, your temperature as to what you're feeling and what's happening. And so for me in my acting, I allow that to live because that space is really the interesting part of what life really is.
Do you feel like your theater background helped you master that? Because in theater, it's so big and out, and you're selling out to the audience, whereas in acting, you have to be small and live in this small space. And again, like I said, you're a master of those moments. Do you think theater really helped you?
It helped me be disciplined, but it also helped me. I'm very large in my personality, and that becomes from being on Broadway and being in rooms like this where you have to get your point across to the back row. So everything has to be exaggerated. Film taught me to take that exaggeration and shrink it, and to make it more intense, and to make it more real. And when I remind myself, when the camera's on, I remind myself it's not even as big as my life is. Because I always ask, what lens are you on? And they tell me, I'm on a 30, I'm on a 20, I'm seeing the whole world. Okay, so that I can be big. And then they could be right here. And then that largesse of my personality has to come down because it would blow the screen away, and you have to allow it to be commensurate with how you're being shot.
You've played iconic villains, rebels, leaders, but beyond the characters, there's an artist who brings them to life. What do you know now about yourself as a performer that you didn't know 10, 20 years ago, and what's still evolving?
I love to learn, and to me, it's really important to always be in that space of wonder. I love what I do, and I'm blessed to love what I do because there's always a curiosity behind my work in terms of my research for characters I play, in terms for how I play them. Because I believe what I do is very specific. Because our world is moving so fast, television moves faster than film. We shoot 6 pages a day in television. We shoot 1 page a day in film. And because our attention spans are in a different place, crew-wise, that I feel like I have to be right on it to be able to deliver it because there's less time given to it. And so it's changed me quite a bit. What's changed the most is from theater to film is the definition of my performance. I've become more refined, and I feel like I have so much more to give, and I'm still not there. A lot of things are said about me, but if I believe those things, I fear that I might stop doing what I do the best. And what I do the best is to refine every performance I have and make it very special. And I think to realize that it's not the end result. It's the journey that's what I really love. It's going through all the ways to get to the character, to where the character needs to be, not forgetting that that character is a part of me as well. Like, I believe you should take the rest and leave the best, but I believe that we want to see you, right? We want to see a part of who you are. We like you. So if you throw all that away and you completely disappear, maybe you leave the character devoid of some personality that we would want to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have one final question, and then we're going to open up to the audience.
Terrific.
You know, some actors chase visibility. You've built legacy. Do you think about the long game when you choose a role? And what do you hope for your body of work says about you as an artist?
There's so many things packed into that. When I was a younger actor, sure. I mean, I think even when I was coming up, I mean, everyone wants to be famous. What is that about? You know, that visibility. I think it's a human trait. We want to be seen. We want to be acknowledged, and rightfully so, as we should be. Will we be acknowledged for what we really love? Is the question. Will we be disappointed if that visibility, that stardom doesn't come, or will we be happy doing what we love to do? The gift is in doing, and that should be enough. But sometimes for some of us, it's not enough. I never think about legacy when I'm doing a part. I just played a historical character, Vernon Damer. No one knows who he is. He was a mentor to Medgar Evers, and he was killed by the Ku Klux Klan. He was a farmer who was the richest man in Hattiesburg, Tennessee, and he owned a farm, a sawmill, and a store. And they put a poll tax on blacks being able to vote. And so because they didn't want him to vote, and they knew that black people didn't have the money. And so he stood up and he said, whoever can't pay their poll tax, I'll pay it for them, because we have to get black people to vote. 1963, 3 days later, he was dead, right? So, and I mention this story because, of course, because I didn't know who Vernon Damer was, and probably many people in the room don't. But I didn't think about the legacy of me connected to him while I was doing the part, because I'm honestly want to be in truth. What is the truth? Do you ask yourself that from day to day? What is your truth? So, you know, the question is, are you happy? Right? That's where you start. Are you fulfilling what you were put here to fulfill? Not that it's an obligation, but it's your destiny. And if you're not looking for your destiny, it's going to look for you. It's going to find you. And your destiny is what you love to do. It's that connection with something palpable, passionate, and strong that connects you to everyone else. So then there's no visibility, because there's no highest, there's no lowest. Just because I'm seen more than you doesn't mean I'm better than you, right? It just means I found a connection for something in my life that makes a difference for me. Not for you, not for my mother, not for my father, not for my priest, but for me. And that's what you have to find. What connects you to the fabric of humanity? You as a human being, what is your gift? What are you supposed to be doing? That's a question you just ask yourself. And the answer may not come right now. It may come in a few days. It may reveal itself to you over a period of time. But that is what you should be chasing, because that is what's going to make you happy, not just in this moment, but in every moment for the rest of your life. So, my advice is that when you connect to that universal feeling, that current, that energy, that you will find exactly what propels you to stay grounded within this communication and connection, not only in the world, but from human being to human being, right? That's where the juice is. And that will allow you then to be seen exactly how you should be seen. I get the other. The other is just superficial. The depth of sharing and being really seen means that I see your light, I see your love, I see your grace. That's what life's about.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there are many people who need to hear that. It's such a positive message and an important message that people don't necessarily hear every day or just don't have the courage to even think about themselves. I would love to sit here and talk to you all day long. Thank you, this is amazing. But you know what? We have some questions here from our audience. Please line up, and I promise we'll get as many as we can in the time allotted. And I apologize, but I will be the bad guy and cut the line off when necessary. So hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
John, first of all, Giancarlo, I'd like to say that goatee you had as the genie of Agrabah, it was a good look. I didn't even recognize you.
Thank you so much. That was one of my favorite roles.
Once upon a time, used a lot of green screen work. For you, have you ever done anything that required that amount of green screen, and what was that like?
It was really fun to do. I've done a few things on green screen now since then. That was one of my early green screen works. And when I was Sydney the Mirror, it was just a small green screen. But a lot of what I did with Lana and as the genie was in a huge green screen room. Since then, of course, I've done Far Cry. I've done a bunch of other things as well. Mandalorian was in a big volume room. I enjoy it, but it's a lot of work in terms of allowing you to see the mirror of what's going on in the world through my eyes.
I wish we got to see more of Sydney, because the last we saw was when the Snow Queen let him out, and that was it. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot more of him after that. But I was hoping we would.
I was too, but the show went the way it did, and they didn't need Sydney around anymore, but who knows?
Maybe in the supposed reboot.
Hope so.
Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi
Hello,
there.
hello. She's a pro at this already. Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
my name is Hannah, and I have a question. So, what is your favorite kind of food?
Wow, what's my favorite kind of food? Well, right now I'm eating high protein, low fat because I'm training for my action film. But I really like this Ayurvedic dish called khichdi. It's like Indian baby food. It is mung beans that are cooked down into like a soup. One of my favorite foods.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, hi. What's your name and what's your question?
Landon,
Hi, Landon.
I was at your area yesterday, and I've been thinking about a question to ask you here, and I have
Sure.
it on my phone, so let me pull it up really quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so out of all of like the villains you have done across like movies, shows, which role has crossed that threshold that made you feel like they were the worst?
I've played a lot of nefarious people, but I have to say that Gustavo Fring changed me forever. You're welcome. Thanks, Landon.
All right, hi. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Nicole, and first I want to say that I really resonate with what you were saying earlier on the stage just before the questioning. That's amazing that you're talking to people about that kind of stuff. I think is really important. But my question is, my favorite documentary of all time is Unacknowledged, and you narrated that. And I just wanted to ask you, like, if you enjoyed doing that and like, what your view is on that whole topic.
Well, I really did enjoy it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist as much as Steven is. He's gone on to do many documentaries, and he's very prolific. I love that one because I feel like there's a lot of information we don't have, and he's exposing that or allowing us to question some of what we don't know. And I think if we're not interested in knowing things we don't know, then we lose our curiosity. So I really love doing it, and I love him a lot.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, hi. Step on up. What's your name?
My name's Isaac, and my question is, so you've had a long, decorated career, been a part of many fandoms. Was there a particular fandom that you joined that you were really excited about, or a fandom that you haven't joined yet that you would be interested in?
I have some more fandoms to go. Thank you so much for asking that question. Look, I really loved it when John Favreau called me and asked me to be a part of Mandalorian. And when he called, I went, Mandalorian? He said, yeah, I want you to play a Moff. I said, a moth? He said, no, a moth. I said, what the hell is a moth? I was really pretty ignorant about it. And then I, of course, educated myself. And he said, look, I don't have a lot of money to pay you, but I'd love for you to do it. And I said, okay. He said, maybe I can pay you in the second or third season. Is there anything you want that I can do for you? And I said, I have to have a cape. And he said, done deal. Little did I know that, who up. But I was very excited about that, and equally as excited about joining the MCU. That's been a really wonderful thing to be in California. Thank you very much. I hope so. There's space for me in my heart to do it. I'd like to get him to a place where you can see some of his powers. That would be a fantastic thing. But it's a great thank you to all of the fans who, teased the fact that I could be Professor X and all that. That's how all of that happened. And so I'm hoping that can continue, and I'll have more work with the MCU, with Sidewinder, and maybe beyond.
Hello, what's your name?
So my question is, through your career, has there been a character that you portrayed so well and for so long that you started getting the calls that the writers wanted that portrayal continually in their different series, different movie, and how do you prevent that from happening so you have that wide breadth?
I think it started with Gustavo Fring. People would call and I would find out that the script, they wanted a Gustavo Fring-like character, and I would say, why? I would talk to them. I mean, it was when Far Cry called me. They called me and I said, I met with them, and I quickly deduced that they kind of wanted a Gustavo Fring, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. I said, I know this guy is a dictator, but he has many other qualities that are different, that differentiate him from Gustavo. And they heard me, and we figured it out. You say no, or you say yes. I think when you say yes, it becomes a trap because you wind up doing that forever. And when you say no, you leave room for something new to come along. You're welcome.
Great question. Thank you so much. Hi, what's your name?
My name's Daniel. One aspect of the movie, Do the Right Thing, that is so impactful is that we see the main conflict from all sides. Spike Lee even says on the director's commentary that your character, Bugging Out, and Sal both have good points on who belongs on his Wall of Fame. My question is, playing a character so central to the conflict of the movie, and as a Black Italian yourself, was there any additional perspective you could bring to the movie, or did it influence your character at all?
Oh yeah, there was a great amount I could bring to the movie because I am that exact mixture. My father's from Naples, Italy. My mother's from Alabama. I'm a Black Italian. And so for me, it was ironic to be put in that role to learn something. At that time, Spike was so anti-white, it was unbelievable. And I'm standing right in the middle of that fire. He would say to me, Giancarlo, if there's a race war, what side are you going to be on? Ha ha ha! He would start laughing like uncontrollably, and like, answer me. And I would say I'd be on the side of humanity. Ah! So I brought a lot to that character because I love my Italian side and honor that. I go to Italy every year, but I also love where I stand as a Black man in America, which is, an interesting space to be in that unless you're in that skin, you don't know. Just like I don't know what it's like to be in one of my daughter's skins. You don't know until you live it. But then you have to either choose to represent it or choose to help yourself and other people to grow through that, right? Because many people who are prejudiced against become angry. You're angry, you're treated a certain way. And when you can greet anger with love, and you can transmute that energy within yourself. So when I finally dropped being an angry Black man, my life changed. My characters changed. My humanity changed. I wasn't buying into the label that people would put on me. But that's personal work that you have to do to change your life. Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Henson. I was wondering if you'd like to return as Moff Gideon to do like a prequel to the story during the prime of the Empire when the Emperor was still reigning.
Thank you so much, Henson, for your question. I love Moff Gideon. I think he has such depth and has some place to go within that universe. And I'm hoping that maybe, I know the film is coming out, I'm not in it, so don't get excited. But I know, I'm so sorry. But I'm hoping that there'll be more room for Moff Gideon to return and come back to life. After all, I love the characters that I play who die, and you don't see them die. But I love that world, and I certainly loved working with John Favreau and Dave Filoni. So I would be back. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, hi, what's your name?
I have a small question for you. Did you prefer filming at Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Wow, Dakota, you put me on the line. And not to not answer your question, but I love filming of any kind. There's always something that you feel about the first time. And I always acknowledge that. Breaking Bad was a first, and it was really developing that character and finding that space in between the words was my way of acknowledging the great writing. Actors come in and they go, I want to change this line and that line, and that's their way of contributing. I didn't have the ego that said I could write it better than Vince. When it fit in my mouth, I would say it, and most often it fit in my mouth if I could get my mannerisms to join and to meet those words. It was the space that allowed me to honor the words even more. So a first is a first, and I love it very much. Better Call Saul was different because it's a more personal story that has equally the amount of edge, but it really is a different story, and it's an introduction to Gus, and it takes place before Breaking Bad. So I would have to say, Breaking Bad would have a point above Saul for me because it was a first, but as a continuation of the character, and to see some vulnerability in this character, in Saul, was a favorite of mine. Thank you, Dakota.
Awesome. Hi, step on up. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Megan. Can you hear me okay? Sorry.
I sure can.
Okay. I'm a really big fan of murder.
We want the audience to hear you, so take one step up to the mic and speak right to it. You can pull it down a little bit.
Pull it down? Okay. Well, my name's Megan. I'm a really big fan of murder mysteries, and so The Residence was amazing. How did you feel about your character, A.B. Winter, and when you first found out that was the course it was going to take, like how it was going to unfold?
I really love The Residence. It's on Netflix. For those of you who don't know, it's a really great murder mystery. Knives Out in the White House. Uzo Adubo plays the detective, and I play A.B. Winter, the chief White House usher. I knew nothing about a White House usher. And so one thing for me as an actor, I get to learn about many people and many different vocations that I would not know about or learn about. And I stepped into the show late, took over for the late Andre Brower, who was a friend of mine. It was a big decision to make to go and do it because I loved Andre so much. He was in the middle of shooting and he passed away. And so it was a great honor for me to continue his legacy and mine by doing this. But I learned so much about the protocol of the White House, so it was interesting to me. I loved how it turned out because I don't want to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but given the circumstance that A.B. is in when we meet him in the very beginning, you still get a chance to see how he got there. And so it was a great gig for me, and I hope that many people in the audience would be drawn to go and see it. Netflix from your own living room.
Hey, what's up? What's your name?
Hi, my name's Tim, and my question for you would be, well, you of course mentioned that you don't like the idea of limiting yourself to one specific kind of role or character, that you always want to broaden your horizons. And so whether that means just stepping out of your comfort zone to try something new and challenge yourself to something you've never done before, or experimenting with a different way of performing or environment you're performing in, or even just having a character in mind that you would love to portray. What is the kind of performance you would love to give if you had the opportunity to do so?
Well, I'd like to play a philosopher. I'd like to play a poet. I played Miguel Agarin in a movie that he was an East Village poet who hung out with playwrights. Miguel Piñero was a playwright and also a heroin addict, but he wrote plays most of his life. And Miguel Agarin was a guy who tried to keep him straight and keep him on the straight and narrow. But I'd love to play a guy named Pushkin, who was a mixed-race Russian poet, musician, playwright, intellectual. I feel like, we can, as actors, we can play the same thing over and over again, and sometimes that allows us, look, you want to be comfortable, you want to feel like you're safe, you want to feel secure. For those of us who have children and a family, you want to do something that allows that security to feel like it's long and everlasting. But we're living in a world where everything changes. We're living in impermanence. So we get attached to wanting to feel comfortable. Isn't it weird? We're human, so we want to feel safe. And safe is good, but also secure is good, but there is no security. There is nothing comfortable. We are living in a space and time where we have to live and evolve in an awkward and uncomfortable situation. And that's okay if we allow it to be okay. So for me as an actor, to play different kinds of characters means I'm more creative. I'm doing things that are out of my comfort zone, and that's the only way to move ahead, is when you're out of your, am I doing it right? Can I do it right? Can I fulfill this? Is this a challenge? It allows you to be on your P's and Q's and to grow and expand.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great question.
Oh, we have time for a few more questions here. Hi, what's your name?
Jake, my name is Jake.
Hey, Jake.
First of all, I love you in Far Cry. Thank you for doing that. It's a lot of fun to play that. And then my question goes back to TAPS. What did that experience do for your career as a pivot point? Or was it one, or what'd you come out from TAPS?
Well, I call it TAPS East Meets West. We had me and Evan Handler, 2 New York actors, met all the LA actors, Tom Cruise, Sean Penn, Timothy Hutton, all LA bound, who had grown up in that world of Hollywood. I love that film. Harold Becker directed it. It was my first major feature film for a major studio, and it gave me a bird's eye view into how it's done. It also allowed me to meet, for the third, well, that was the first time, 2 times afterwards, I met George C. Scott, a master of what he does, who was really just completely consumed by doing his 4-page monologue and did it perfectly every time. Every time he said a certain word within that monologue, he touched his hat, he touched his heart, whatever, he had it down. It taught me that acting is more than just speaking words. It's embodying motion, right? It's embodying physicality, and he was a master at it. So there's so many things I learned from that movie, but one was how to be a quick study with my words and to repeat what I was doing, either the same but different every time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name?
My name is Aiden Kelly.
Hey.
But I love how you're so positive, you're so inspiring. But I want to know, who is your favorite person to act with?
I've loved that you've come to me 3 times during this con, and you're so poised, and you're so polite, and you're so present. And I really have enjoyed my interactions with you. So I want to say thank you for that. I love watching actors who command the screen, much like I've always wanted to. Sidney Poitier was one who had a very big presence, who I eventually got a chance to meet. One of my favorite actors to work with today is Bryan Cranston. He really is a master actor who gives me his attention when I play opposite him. I really enjoyed working with him as well. And there are many, many, many more. I always like actors who lose themselves in a character, but who are willing to do what you've done all weekend. You look me right in the eye, you speak your mind, you take your time, and you connect. And I love that about you. Thank you.
Hey, what's your name? What's your question?
Hello, I'm Nicholas, and so I have a question, of course. So, out of all the characters you play, what was your favorite scene that you had to act?
I have to say, right away, it comes to me right away, it's Box Cutter from Breaking Bad. And it exemplifies much of what I've been saying here. And you asked me, what have I learned in a question, 3 questions before we started the Q&A. Actors love to act. I've learned that. If you leave me to my own devices, I'm going to act, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep talking forever. We love to hear ourselves speak and all that. It's just the truth. I think it's the truth about anyone because it allows us to feel our own essence as a vibratory mirror for ourselves. I've learned as I've become more mature to feel your essence as a vibratory, relevant essence for me, right, to listen more. And so Box Cutter is special to me because for the first 10 minutes of that episode, I said nothing at all. There were no words. And to me, that's how we really communicate. We use our eyes, we use our ears, we use our hearts. And so for the first 10 minutes of that episode, I said nothing until I go back up those stairs, have changed back from my big fish outfit, have done the dirty deed, and I say, get back to work. And that's it. And it was very, very powerful to know that your physical action, your physical body speaks volumes. Your eyes speak volumes. It can allow someone to feel comfortable, relaxed, afraid, love. All of those things you can share without any words whatsoever. And so we know that about each other. And so just know that that's a viable and very powerful way to communicate. So that had to be my favorite episode of any television show ever done.
And I do apologize to everyone in line, but this will be our last question. If you didn't get a chance to ask, please go visit him down at his table. Hey, what's up? What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Micah, and on the topic of connection, when you embody a character for so long and you get like their mannerisms and like their speech and down, do those characters ever leave you as an actor?
That's so funny. Before I came here to the Four Seasons in Los Angeles, and I got a massage, and I went to an energy healer, and she touched me, and she said, "Oh, what was the name of the character you just played, that you just finished playing?" And I said, "Huh? The character that you just played and you finished last week?" I said, "Vernon Damer." And she was touching my feet, and she said, "Vernon Damer's still here. We have to get him down to the bus stop." It's the truth. All of my characters stay with me. Whether you know it or not, as human beings, every interaction you have is imprinted somewhere inside you, especially and specifically traumatic ones, right? And so that trauma has to go someplace. There's a great book out called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about how any traumatic words you've heard, things you've seen, interactions that you've had. I grew up in the age of corporal punishment. I was hit by my parents. All of that is imprinted within me. Same thing with my acting roles, right? I can drop it, and especially the ones that are my favorite or that I've had to go to a very deep place for, they live within me. And so I have to wash that out of me so I'm not living that day to day, especially with characters lately like Moff Gideon or Gus Fring, where people actually every day call me Gus. And I'm immediately like, I'm there. I'm like, okay, leave me alone. Get away from me. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. No, I don't have any meth. Well, maybe I do. Pay me a lot of money. You know, I mean, it's like an idiot. You know, I mean, I'm in an airport and someone goes, "This is the way," and I go, "You have something I want." Someone goes, oh my God, Stan Edgar, like you have any compound B? I'm going, "You are not a god. You are simply bad product." I mean, you know, it's like, so yes. First of all, I've been blessed to get all of the best lines of any actor in history. Like the lines that I have for every character I played in the last 5 years, they resound. They're really strong and they're really powerful. So I look at it as a blessing. I'm happy to develop more of me because somewhere inside of me is fighting with all these different characters. So look, we all want to be seen, right? I want to be seen. You've seen me as all of these different characters, but now I want to be able to, I'm brave enough, courageous enough, mature enough to want you to see who I am. Because there's something inside of me that understands that besides the work I do, I have a contribution. And it's to show you my heart and my soul. I'm not perfect, no one is. I'm perfect in my imperfection, right? That's perfect. Imperfection is perfect. So when you feel like you're not enough, tell yourself that you are. Because I love each and every one for who you are, and I want you to love me for who I am as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you all your questions. You're amazing. And Giancarlo, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, sharing your wisdom, being such a positive light, and sharing some of your energy with us. We can't wait to see some more of you in the future. One more time, big round of applause for Giancarlo Esposito.